Okay, so hey guys, and welcome to part 9 of the Minardi Manager Career mode. We're trying to take Minardi to be the best team around, and as you can see here on the screen, we're definitely going to be able to do that, because we've already announced our designer and our technical director, but today we're going to announce our drivers, and this is just the icing on the cake really, to be honest. This is what's going to help us win the World Championship and hopefully Constructors Championship as well, is our drivers. So our number one driver, as you can see here, is Damon Hill. We contracted him for £6.9 million with a bonus of £2.5 million if he wins the Drivers' Championship, you know. Just God persuade him, you know. I mean, chances are he won't win it next year anyway, but if he does, I'll be happy to pay that amount, definitely, if he's winning races anyway. But yeah, we got Damon Hill, obviously son of Graham Hill, who's another legendary British F1 driver, and Damon Hill is a fantastic driver, obviously the world champion of 1996. But the interesting thing is his transition from the 96 season to the 97 season, which I'll just briefly go over, because basically he won the championship in 96, and then 1997 he went to Arrows. Strangest thing in the world, but basically Williams didn't want him. Frank Williams didn't want Damon Hill, even though he just won the World Championship. Frank Williams basically said, your services aren't required anymore, and kicked him off the team to replace with Heinz-Harald Frentzen, which is unbelievable. And there's no other team, one other big team, which was able to contract Damon Hill despite his World Championship. So he went to Arrows for the 97 season. And the interesting thing I want to point out about that year in 97 is how he damn nearly won a race in an Arrows. Basically, that season, Arrows were using Bridgestone tyres, and all the big teams were really using Goodyear tyres. And Bridgestone tyres were actually the worst that season, but at the Hungarian Grand Prix that year, the Bridgestone tyres were actually the best, and actually better than the Goodyear ones, which meant he qualified third in an Arrows, and he was actually leading the race by a long way, like ahead of Villeneuve, ahead of Schumacher, ahead of everyone really. And there was only a hydraulic problem which slowed the Arrows down, which meant that he finished second that race as Villeneuve passed him, which meant he got second at the 97 Hungarian Grand Prix, which was also Arrows' last ever podium finish. And I'm just thinking, if Damon Hill, a previous world champion, can get a podium, actually so nearly a win in an Arrows, should be able to do good for us in a Minardi. So that's Damon Hill, former world champion, brilliant driver, and he was actually supposed to retire at the end of the 99 season, but we've kept him on because he can see that Minardi are going places, and he's happy to delay his retirement to stick around with us. So that's our first driver announced, obviously Damon Hill, and our second driver is here, and it's Fisicella. And you know how the saying goes, if you want to win, get a fin. So that's what we've done. We got Fisicella. It's not Mika Häkkinen, I know, but Ficella's just as great of a driver, to be honest. I think he's brilliant. And you may be thinking, how come Ficella's in the game? Because he's not a driver that season. In fact, he was actually a driver that season, but only under extraordinary circumstances, because he did 3 races for BAR once Ricardo Zonta had an injury, so he replaced Ricardo Zonta. But famously, Michael Schumacher broke his leg during a crash at the 1999 British Grand Prix, so Fisicella was assigned to partner Eddie Irvine for a large part of that year. And Fisicella actually did pretty well in the Ferrari at the time, considering he'd never driven the car before, because at the German Grand Prix, he was leading the race, and he would have won his first and probably only ever Grand Prix. Unfortunately, team orders, typical Ferrari team orders, meant that he had to move out the way to let Irvine pass, because obviously Irvine was battling for the championship. So, Fisicella is a great driver. He's had some great history this year. Obviously, the game doesn't recognise that, but in real life, he had pretty interesting times at both BAR and Ferrari, and hopefully, because he's driven at Ferrari, he'll be able to learn some of their secrets and take them to us. But the interesting thing about Fisicella is, as you can see here, his annual salary is only 1 million, which is a bit weird to us. You may think, how can we go on for so cheap? I mean, Damon Hill cost nearly 7 million a year. And that's because Fisicella, technically the game counts him as a driver who's out of contract, because he never did have a contract for this year. So the game counts him as being out of contract. And that means any driver who's out of contract in this game you can get really cheaply. And because Fisicella's out of contract, he's actually the highest skilled driver who is out of contract naturally at the start of the game. You can get him for 1 million, and we needed to do some cost cuttings after the previous personnel we've announced, like, you know, such as Damon Hill costing 7 million. We've had to do some cost cuttings, and Fisicella, 1 million, he'll take it. He'll be happy to have a race seat, especially in a team which is actually going up in the world. And we're giving a bonus amount of 100,000 per race win, which is fine by me, considering if he does win a race, the team gets 3 million. So, you know, 100k. I don't mind missing 100k if we're gaining 3 million a race. So that's Fisicella, a great driver. One I personally think is one I personally like. And also he's a Finn, which means hopefully he might be able to do well for us and maybe grab a few wins, because that's what Finnish people are known for doing. But also one quick thing I should know is how Fisicella's overall rating is 94, which is 2 higher than Badoer. Not only is it 2 higher than Badoer, his salary is also half that of Badoer's, which is just brilliant. How we can get someone who's better and cheaper than Badoer. So that's great. Fisicella, great asset to the team. Although the slight worry I have got about Fisicella is when he was driving in British Formula 3, he was convicted of drunk driving, which is a slight worry for me, to be honest. Someone who's convicted of drunk driving in the past is driving for our team, but to be honest, we've seen how Badoer has driven in, and Jenny, to be honest, we've seen how they've driven in the past this season, and to be honest, they may as well be drunk for how terrible they are doing, so I don't think we can do much worse than that. But to us, British Formula 3, that was, well, he was convicted of drunk driving actually 10 years ago, well, in 1990, so 10 years ago, which means basically, I think he's gone over that. He's learnt, he's matured in that time. I don't think he's going to be doing it again, and to be honest, even if he did, I genuinely reckon he'd be better drunk than Badoer and Genet would being sober. But anyway, that's Fisicella, a great asset to the team there. Okay, now our test driver, and he's Owain Green, and now, basically, I have got some explaining to do about Owain Green, and it links really to his salary. As you can notice, his salary's $11,000, actually, a year, which is nothing. I mean, you couldn't really live, well, it depends. If he's a single guy living home alone, and I suppose he could live off $11,000 a year. But the reason we got him is because his salary is so cheap. And why is his salary so cheap? And in fact, who is he? Genuinely, no idea who he is. Basically, if you look at the list of drivers, below all the race drivers and the test drivers for the F1 teams that year, it's got a load of other people below that who are, you know, various ratings. And all of these drivers are out of contract. Pretty much all of them, I think, are out of contract. And as I said with Fisicella, any driver who's out of contract is dirt cheap to get salary. They'll take a really low salary, basically. So we needed Owain Green because we've had to do cost cuttings from the other drivers and other personnel and other suppliers in the game. We've had to do cost cuttings. And Owain Green, well, basically, Gaston Mazzacane has a salary of about $600,000-$700,000 this year. Owain Green will be saving us, obviously, that's $600,000 to $700,000 a year, which is vital for us. And his overall ratings tell, well, as you can see, it's 79. Obviously, Fisicella's was 94, so there's a massive gap there. But test drivers are only used for test days, and I never go to test days. So it doesn't really matter, to be honest. All we need someone who's cheap, that's it. Because I'm never going to use him, so there's no point having anyone expensive. But the key question is, who is he? And genuinely, I have no idea who he is. I know his name's Owen Green. I know he's 22 and he's English. That's all I know, genuinely. He could be anyone, for all I know. Because I've had a look, and I can't find him anywhere. I don't know whether he's, I don't know, maybe an employee at EA. You know, that was put in for like a little Easter egg type thing. Or whether he's in a lower motorsport, possibly. I don't know, but I genuinely couldn't find anything out about Owen Green. So, he's a nobody, to be honest, and he's at the bottom of the list for whatever reason, along with lots of other people who are at the bottom of the list who I don't know who they are. I don't know where they get the pictures from or anything, but that's Owen Green. He's terrible, but the key thing is he's English and he's cheap. And we're never going to use him anyway, so it's fine. So that is good. So basically, let's ignore Owen Green. Let's just focus on our two drivers who are actually going to be using Damon Hill and Fisicella. Great signings there. Anyway, before I move on to the rest of the episode, I got a comment from Smooth Racing in the last episode saying, can I show the grid for the 2000 season, you know, as it is already with the current driver signings there are. And I was thinking about doing some snazzy graphics on this episode, but I thought, you know, it's going to be more time, really, that's worth, you know, to make. And I think, you know, it won't be worth all the effort I put in. So what I have done is in the description of every video, so this one, the videos previously, and all the videos afterwards. So every single video now in the F1 Manager playlist is going to have a episode update of the current drivers announced for each team. I might extend that to include engines and electronics, but definitely in the description of every single F1 Manager video in this series there will be an update as to which driver is going for which team. So that really that's just so you guys can keep track of who's at which team, you know, and because obviously I go through the news quite quickly in these episodes, you know, and that's a concise guide that you can check up on and is updated, you know, with every episode. But anyway, so we got the drivers, obviously they're the drivers we're getting next year, which just, I can't wait. It'll be such an improvement from Badoer and Genet. But anyway, short term, we got to think short term, and it's the British Grand Prix coming up. My home Grand Prix, as being a British person, myself an English person myself. So we got the British Grand Prix to look forward to, and it's a great track with Silverstone. It's a very legendary track, one that's got a lot of history, and hopefully we can do well here. Obviously this is where Fisicella came in for Schumacher. Well, it's the end of this race where Fisicella came in for Schumacher, so I think it's quite timely actually how we've announced Salo and our other drivers here. But anyway, 28th of June, that race is on the 10th of July, so we've got about 2 weeks to pass where we'll most certainly get some more news. So yeah, I'll cut to the news, and if we don't have any news, then, well, I'll see you at the practice report around Silverstone. So see you then. Okay, so hey guys, so we have got some new news. Well, there's a few bits of news. So we got new components deal for Stewart. That's going to be that they are using Vistian electronics, just as rumoured. And then McLaren have got a new components deal. That's good, that they're using AP brakes next year, which is a good move for them. And then it's just sponsors, really, is it? No, it's, well, we got two sponsors there for Jordan and that. Prost. Arrows are going to be retaining Mike Coughlin. I don't know how you pronounce that name. Coughlin, I suppose it would be. Yeah, well, Mike Coughlin's going to be their new technical director. Well, I mean, he's having his contract extended. And then we apparently got the rumour again of Rubens Barrichello joining Ferrari, but as you can see, he has joined Jordan as driver number 2, because obviously, as I mentioned rather sneakily actually earlier on in the series, how Heinz Alfredsson's taken driver number 1, and I wonder what happened to Damon Hill. Which is why Rubens Barrichello's taken driver number 2 and not Heinz Alfredsson, which is weird how Rubens Barrichello's driver number 2. He's always driver number 2 everywhere he goes, which is, I feel quite sorry for him in that respect. But anyway, and then we got Stephanie Cesarin, who might be joining Jordan. Well, obviously that will obviously be as a test driver role, and Am I right in saying that Stefan Cesarin joined, well, was that Minardi at some point? Is that just my imagination? I think he was. I don't know, I think he was anyway. But anyway, that's the news for this week. So we just got some weekly reports which say nothing interesting. But anyway, I'll see if there's any more news next week. And if there isn't, then I'll cut to the practice report around Silverstone. So I'll see you then. Okay, so hey guys, so we've got some more news. It's nothing, well, no big news really. But we got BAR confirms David Warren as their commercial manager. Which, God, look at that guy in the background. That is a photo bomb if ever I've seen one. They've tried to blur him out, but you can clearly see him there. Just, that is a nice photo bomb, I love it. There we get David Warren, that's the guy we're focusing on. He's BAR's new commercial manager. And then we got Benetton might be using Ford Zetec engines. Oh no, they didn't announce what engines they'd be using. I swear we're getting lots of rumours. I swear these rumours have come up previously. Yeah, I'm pretty certain they have. Oh well. Benetton might be using them. Williams confirm Loch. What does the guy do to how you pronounce his name? Loch or Loch Bigoris? I don't have a clue how you pronounce his name, but oh yeah. He's going to be Williams' new chief designer, and I've never heard of him. And his salary shows that he might not be the best chief designer around, but well, there you go. That's who Williams have got, because they seem to be going downhill. Ferrari's linked to be going to, oh god, that picture of Johnny Herbert again. Well, yeah, he might be going to Ferrari, which would be as driver number 2, since, well, obviously they've confirmed Schumacher's driver number 1, obviously. And then apparently got the rumour come up again of Stephanie Cesarin going to Jordan. It's really weird how we got rumours coming up twice. Anyway, oh, we still got one day actually. Oh no, we have. Okay, no. Right, so we got the race around Silverstone coming up now, where we've got, well, see a lap record from Schumacher, 97 again. And so also it's a great track, obviously it's the home to a lot of teams, which means a lot of teams are familiar with this place. I mean, Jordan, Williams, Stewart, Benetton, BAR, McLaren. You know, they're all based in and around Silverstone, which means they should have an advantage on everyone else, which, you know, we don't have. I'm pretty certain Minardi are based in Italy. We don't really have that advantage everyone else does, but obviously Monza's coming, well, obviously you've got the Monza test day, and then you've got the Italian Grand Prix in a few races time, where we should have the advantage. Us and Ferrari should have the advantage for that race. But anyway, yeah, but anyway, despite that, you know, for me, it's my home race, and, you know, hopefully, being back in Britain, hopefully, it should be able to give us some luck for Minardi anyway. So, we'll see if it can do that. It should be a good race nonetheless. And I'll leave you for the practice report around Silverstone in 1999. So I'll see you then. Okay, so the practice session around Silverstone in 1999 has just ended, so let's have a look at the results. The typical two up front are up front again, with Schumacher taking first and his championship rival Mika Hakkinen taking second. Third place isn't from either of those two teams, it's in fact Jordan with Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and fourth is Michael Schumacher's brother Ralf Schumacher in the Williams. Fifth is the former world champion Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR, and Damon Hill, the future Minardi driver, is in sixth. Seventh is Johnny Herbert with David Coulthard all the way down in eighth. Alexander Wirth is in ninth, and Eddie Irvine, and again the second man at one of the top teams, is way behind the number one man at each team. Fisicella's 11th with Trulli in 12th. Mark Genet puts on a very impressive performance for Minardi to be 13th, with Badoer in 15th also for the Minardi, with Pedro Diniz sandwiched in between both Minardis. Joao Lacey is in 16th, and Barrichello has a disappointing session to be all the way down in 17th. Takaki's in 18th to be ahead of the other Arrows driver De La Rosa in 19th. Alessandro Zanardi again has another dreadful practice session to be all the way down in 20th. Olivier Panis is in 21st for the Prost, and last is Riccardo Zonta, who had another dreadful practice session to be way at the back of the field. Okay, so we just had the qualifying around Silverstone in Great Britain in 1999, and there were some very interesting results, so let's go through them. First was Michael Schumacher, who was a clear 3 seconds ahead of David Coulthard. The second McLaren qualified second and was miles ahead of his teammate. Third was Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Jordan. Fourth was Ralf Schumacher. Fifth was Jacques Villeneuve, setting a good performance in the BAR. And the surprise 6th position was Jarno Trulli in the Prost, setting Prost's best qualifying performance this year. Alexander Wirth is in 7th with Damon Hill in 8th. Eddie Irvine is way behind his teammate to be in 9th, with Jean Alesi setting a good performance at Sauber in 10th. The two Minardis are Genet and Badoer in 11th and 12th, setting a very good qualifying session after both were able to successfully complete laps once team boss Piers Luton rules told him to risk everything, and it seemed to have paid off here. Johnny Herbert got 13th with Rubens Barrichello, his teammate, just behind in 14th. Fisicella is in 15th, with the disappointment of the session being Mika Häkkinen in 16th. The supposed 1999 world champion finished terribly, and in fact he finished behind the person who's been the surprise of the season, Takaki, in 17th. Riccardo Zonta is in 18th, with Minardi again nowhere near the performance of his teammate and setting a dreadful qualifying position of 19th. Pedro Diniz is in 20th, Pedro De La Rosa, the first Arrows man, is in 21st, and Olivier Panis, also in the Prost, can't even get close to replicating the performance of his teammate to be in stone dead last. Okay, so hey guys, so that was a great qualifying report, to be honest. That was, some really interesting results there, to be honest. Where's the table? There it is. I mean, because I told our guys to risk everything and they actually were able to successfully complete a lap on risk everything, it really paid off and we got good qualifying positions. I mean, we'll probably fall down the order, especially with people like Häkkinen there and everything, but it's good to see that we have got some raw pace, unlike both Arrows drivers who are way down the field. But anyway, I've replaced all the parts, so both cars are on fresh parts, and I've set the strategy so Genet's paying a lap later than Badoer, so let's head on to the race. Right, so we gotta go to the TV camera now, and both Minardis high up. I mean, I think last race Badoer qualified 10th, but to have both Minardis up here, it shows we really have got some good qualifying pace. It's probably because our sponsor Telefonica, they sponsored, I think, Renault during their heydays in 2005 and 2006, so probably Telefonica, they got good taste, and it says Luca Badoer's 4th, which is rubbish. It's just another graphical glitch. Well, I say graphical, it's just a glitch in the game. And look at the Arrows way behind the field, and obviously they're getting stuck in the log jam at Mackett's and Beckett's, which I don't know why they have a log jam, it's such a high speed section. I don't know why you have a log jam at all, you never do. Well, I'm also in Monaco, but it's really weird. It's because this game is a bit weird, but see, they were stuck in a queue at Max and Beck, so we weren't because we're so far up the field. And then, we're coming up behind a Jordan there, actually. That would be Damon Hill, actually, because he was the one who qualified not very well for Jordan. He's pulling away. And what's this? Frentzen, is he getting past Coulthard for second? It says on the graphic down there he is, but so did Frentzen get past? He didn't. Okay, the graphic down there just lied, to be honest, because Frentzen's clearly still in third. He didn't get past at McLaren, and we got a Benetton. So you're going to make a successful move in that BAR, and we didn't see. It shows us a replay and doesn't even show us all of it. So that was a waste of time. Anyway, Mika Häkkinen, oh yeah, of course, he's got loads of places to make up, obviously qualifying down 16th, and that's Takaki's going to get past, and does he? He keeps on cutting these replay cameras, but it didn't look like he was going to be honest. Well, I mean, that's just a guess, really, and we're still keeping up with that Jordan, in fairness. Luckily I've got some pace if we're keeping up with Jordan, although it might be a log jam that's happening on some of these slower corners. Whoa, what? God, that was a snap there, wasn't it, from Badoer? He's so damn nearly lost it there. I know that's a graphical glitch, but that was a snap of oversteer or whatever it was. And Badoer's coming on to complete the first lap. I don't know whether Genet's just behind him. I have no idea. Where is Genet? Oh, Genet's actually ahead in 10th. That's good. So hopefully Badoer can hold up these people behind for Genet. Let's have a look. Does he? He is as well, actually. We're still high up. 13th, 14th. Where's Hackney? Has he got past? Yeah, he's up in 7th, 6th. Where he should be. He's just filtering his way through to where he should be. Now he's got to get past Ralph. Ralph will probably crash him off. Or crash himself off. Knowing what Ralph's like. But I mean, Mecca gained those places really quickly up until 5th. And also because we're in a really high position ahead of Stewart's, Benetton's, BAR's, Williams, Prost, Saubers. At this rate, it's not going to take many retirements for us to get into the points. Obviously, you know, Barrichello's just got past, and you know, other drivers probably will get past. But at this moment in time, we are closer to points than we normally are. And there's not been any retirements, really. And Badoer's slipping down. Well, Genet seems to have been a better driver really all year, and he has been this race. And Badoer, what happened to you, slipping down the order? Oh, that's a pit stop. He's due to pit in on that lap. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, so Zonta should get past us. Zanardi definitely should get past us. We probably could hold off Panis and Diniz, possibly. And obviously both hours where they're destined to go nowhere. Oh, and as I said, Damon Hill drove for them, which is... I don't know what Damon Hill was doing driving for them in 97, but... don't matter, he's going to be with us next year, so... He clearly... he wants to join a team which values his World Championship, and we do. We value him, we value his World Championship, his experience he can bring to the team, and that's why we've got him. And that's why we haven't got Barrichello, because he's just crashed out due to driver error. Which is great, so he stuck behind us for quite a large part of the race and just given up, really. So he's out, and there hasn't been that many retirements yet, and we're getting over halfway through the race, and there's not been any retirements. And Takaki, God, this is what I normally see, Takaki being about 2 laps behind De La Rosa. That's what I normally see. But it's weird, for a large part of the season it's been the other way around. And come on, we've seen a lot of mass retirements to get us into the top 6, and it's not happening. We've only had 1 retirement this race. No, I don't want South. Actually, where's the Prost? Oh no, Trulli. Of course, Trulli had a brilliant qualifying session for the Prost, which is slightly worrying because if we don't score any points, then we need to hope that Prost don't score any points this season to come 10th in the Constructors. And while no retirements isn't really helping us at Minardi, it is helping us in the sense that it's not helping the Prost to score points. But Trulli's doing well, actually. He's just outside the points. And I thought I saw retirement there. No, Trulli's down in 8th. Good. Damon Hill's got past him. And there's a pretty uneventful race, actually. Well, it hasn't ended yet. It's going too soon, though. First and second to finish, which is Schumacher, then Hakkinen. Hakkinen's had a good recovery, actually. And there you go. That was a pretty boring race, despite the races you get now. With the lack of retirements. Obviously, the cars are on top form today. I mean, obviously, I said lots of teams are based here, so I guess they have good knowledge of the track. And it's easy for them to ship in replacement parts. With their headquarters being so nearby. But yeah, we had a good finish nonetheless. We showed some real pace. Eddie Irvine didn't, clearly. But no, Hakkinen, he keeps on, he's not helping himself to win the Drivers' Championship. And we only had 1 retirement, and that was Barrichello due to driver error. So no car failures this race. That was a very interesting one. And so let's cut on to the news. With Ralph Schumacher was able to finish 5th. That was good. See, even Ralph finished this race. That was interesting. The lack of retirements we had this race. Quite a boring race, but I mean, obviously the season can't be full of all exciting races. And Ferrari have won at Silverstone. And we've got the race reports. Nothing interesting to say. Don't think so, no. Ferrari seem to have the most events. Pretty much everything, really. But yeah, that was a pretty boring race, and we've recovered most of the money we lost from paying people's salaries at the start of the month. And I've announced all of our personnel I've announced all our personnel so far, but we've still got 3 more things to announce. That's our electronic supply for next year, our brake supply for next year, and our engine supply for next year. And I think I'm going to do... I know I said I was going to announce them all... Well, I said I was going to announce them all by Monza, and I'm going to... Next episode, we're going to announce the electronics and brakes manufacturers, and the race afterwards, we're going to announce our engine suppliers. So, if you want to know the electronics, you got Magneti, Marelli's, you got Visteons, you got Honda, PGMs, and brakes. The only 3 brake companies are Brembos, which are the worst, and then you've got MRs and APs, which are the joint best. So, put down in the comments which electronics you think we're using, which brakes you think I'm going to be using next year. And just before I go off, we got to look at the championship standings for Hakkinen. Hakkinen's actually been quite unlucky this season, but he's just behind Schumacher in fairness. He's holding in there, with Irvine also being qualified and Barrichello being the best of the rest, apparently, in drivers. And look at that, Badoer getting a point. That's good. And Constructors, obviously we're still in 10th, just, with Arrows. Are Arrows in 6th first? No, so Arrows, that even with their extremely lucky performance, aren't meeting their target of being 6th because they're outrageously optimistic. And manager ratings, still 3rd manager rating, with Jean Todt being apparently miles the best manager, and then Paul Stewart apparently is also rated very highly, with me not rated much higher than everyone else really, with Frank Williams being rated the worst manager. Well, I think that's unfair to Frank, to be honest. I mean, Ralf Schumacher has put in some good performances, and Zanardi hasn't, so I don't think that says anything against Frank. I think that says something against Zanardi. And where's Prost manager? Yeah, Alain Prost, obviously. Alain Prost managing Prost. But yeah, I mean, surely his manager rank should be worse. I mean, he hasn't scored a point. I mean, it's lucky for us, really lucky for us, but surely his manager rating should be lower. I don't know, but anyway. So, we've got... Oh, where's the calendar? There's the calendar. So, we got the next race at the A1 ring. Obviously, it's now called the Red Bull Ring. I had to think about that for a second. But yes, the Red Bull Ring, or I think its proper name is the... Oh, no, it says that. I was just about to guess. But yeah, it is the Österreich Ring. That is what I was thinking of. But obviously sponsored by A1, whoever they are. Yeah, it's a nice short track, so there'll be a lot of laps. Don't see how many, but yeah. It's a very good track, very high speed track, and with a lot of laps, that means there's more laps for cars to retire in. Obviously, yeah, short lap time, obviously 1:11.8 by Jacques Villeneuve in 97. So, that should be a very interesting race, and I'm looking forward to it. See if we can get any points that race. But anyway, so this has been part 9 of the Minardi Manager Career Mode. Remember to leave down in the comments which electronics suppliers I'm going to be using next year and which brake suppliers I'm going to be using next year. And any comments whether you think the drivers I've picked next year are good, and just any comments really about how I'm managing Minardi. Leave them down in the comments, and I'll see you next time around the A1 ring in 1999. So I'll see you then.